Hello and welcome to my first Infinity N5 battle report. This bat rep is for a tournament I participated in. It was Can'tCon25, hosted by the Western Australian Infinity group here in Perth. I have previously been in a tournament in N2, but that was not an official tournament, just a local store event in Adelaide. This is my first official Infinity tournament, and it is the first tournament for the year. So we played with ITS 16 Part 1. The mission lineup was Frostbyte, Highly Classified and Mindwipe in that order, using the standard game of 300 points. 12 players participated and I placed 9th overall. I am happy with this result. My goal was to not finish last and to maybe, luckily at least, win one game. So I ended up taking 2 lists and playing both. This is my first list. I used this list for Frostbyte and Highly Classified. I prefer a heavy infantry playstyle, so that means having mostly heavy infantry units supported by skirmishers, occasionally the warbands and whatever else I need to complete the objectives. So for this list, this is the vanilla nomads, and you have the options of 2 duos and 1 Harris in vanilla nomads. So for my first list, I decided to use the Kreezer Borak as my main active turn piece and able to duo that with whatever I needed at the time. The most common one would be either the Sakura with Repeater, just to help push forward a Repeater into the midfield and provide protection for the Kreezer Borak, or depending on the mission or the scenario, link it with the Evader Engineer. So if the Kreezer Borak was to take any states such as isolated and immobilized B, then at least the evader can be there to remove them. Or the other option is the other duo I had in the list was the Mobile Brigada Missile Launcher and the Mobile Brigada Hacker, and that was to fuel the Missile Launcher as an ARA piece with a +1 special dice. Now my main ARA pieces in this list were the Sin-Eater Mark 12 and the Mobile Brigada Missile Launcher. Now I chose the Sin-Eater Mark 12 because I thought the HMG would be unnecessary. I just needed to protect objectives such as consoles in the midfield, and so I wanted the Sin-Eater to just overlook a console and to make it more difficult for my opponent to move up and hack, because the Sin-Eater has neurosynetics, and that allows it to fire with its full burst of the Mark 12 in ARO. Now for the list, Group 1 consisted of 10 orders and had 10 troopers in it. That is the Daktari, the standard Doctor for the Nomads, the Rounder with multi-marksman rifle, and this was also a backup attack piece, and because it has the biometric visor and the multispectral visor, it would be useful against impersonation state and camouflage state and troopers with mimetism. The Securitate Repeater, again, just a repeater to protect the deployment zone or push forward with the Kreezer Borak into the midfield and extend the hacking network. The Kreezer Borak with HMG, main active turn shooter. The Mobile Brigada Hacker, generally include one in every list that I have. I've always found I've had good use with the Mobile Brigada Hacker, and that Tinbot Firewall -6 is pretty hard to beat from the opponent. Sorry, for my opponent. The Missile Launcher, just there to counter any heavy infantry or tags that I might expect. The Lucanod remote was one of those Nomad combat remotes. I chose this one with a heavy shotgun, heavy flamethrower, emitter and crazy koalas, mainly because the heavy flamethrower is a large teardrop template, and now that the shotgun changes no longer include templates, it makes it much more of a threat to skirmishers and other light infantry. In previous games, the emitter was very useful against heavy infantry because it's an EM weapon. You will place heavy infantry in tags and other remotes in isolated and immobilized B state, and I thought that might be useful considering I might be coming up against those type of troopers. And the crazy koalas are just there to place midfield blockers and just to be an obstacle for my opponent. The Evader Engineer, always take one as well. I chose the multi-rifle Panzerfaust option because I just wanted that ability to extend beyond the shotgun ranges. Sometimes I'd like to take the Shocker one because he does have AP mines, and as I'm moving out of the deployment zone, I can place AP mines along the way. With a multi-rifle, it allows me to have different ammo options depending on the target. So AP ammunition for heavy infantry, or shock ammunition for light infantry skirmishes, and the Panzerfaust just to have that further range band to take on tags and other heavy opponents. Two Zeros, both killer hacking devices. They're my two skirmishers that will be the main objective grabbers for those in the midfield, just because they have camouflage state, which is very useful. And the killer hacking device, if I needed to, if I can identify the hacker in my opponent, just push forward and kill the hacker, the enemy hacker, and to allow my heavy infantry freedom of movement. Group 2 consisted of the Aguacil Lieutenant and the Senator Mark 12. Because I don't expect them to do anything all game, they're in Group 2. But obviously, if I do lose troopers, I do have the option of moving them into Group 1 to bolster the orders for Combat Group 1. My second combat group, again heavy infantry list. This time I included a Harris of mobile brigaders, 2 with missile launchers and 1 with a hacker. Because I was down the Senator, I needed another ARO piece. I thought I'll just try out 2 missile launchers, because even if I choose to use the mobile brigader hacker and move it forward with a cruiser Borak in a duo, then I still have a pure duo that still allows for the +1 special dice for the missile launchers. The cruiser Borak is still my main heavy weapon assault piece, and for this list it would either be linked up with the Evader Engineer or the mobile brigader hacker. Normally my main assault gun is the mobile brigader HMG, but because of BS attack -3 and a few other skills, I thought that might offer a bit of an advantage. I still need to play a few more games to understand how to use a cruiser Borak effectively, but I may just go back to the mobile brigader HMG. I do have a bit more success and more luck with that trooper. And again, my ARO pieces for this list are the 2 mobile brigader missile launchers. Now, this list was designed mainly for Mindwipe, and I built it around as such, but also if I came up against opponents with an option such as duo tags, then I could choose that as well, but again also depends on the mission. So for this one I chose a Security Lieutenant, the Daktari with a Zonderbot to help reach out and push forward with the Zonderbot to help revive anyone from the midfield. The Evader Engineer, again the same one as before. The missile launchers and the hacker for the mobile brigader as standard. Again, cruiser Borak is the main attack here piece. This time instead of the Lucanod, I decided to use the Cyclone, which the one that has the Spitfire and chain rifle and pitcher. And my plan to use this piece was to just park it in the midfield behind some solid cover and put it in suppressor fire and let it be my opponent's problem. And also use the pitchers to shoot out and to provide some hacking range, because I don't have a lot of midfield presence. Again, the standard 0 killer hacking device. I was tossing up whether to use the forward observer or the killer hacker or the hacker. Each have their places as specialists to capture objectives, but I think of the killer hacker I have more utility out of it, because I can just in camo state push it forward and take out any enemy hackers. And in group 2 I had the Hellcat with boarding shotgun, adhesive launcher rifle and decharges. So again, like I said, I built this around for the mission Mindwipe, and it was tailored for that. So my 0 could be the Uber hacker, and the Hellcat with decharges can drop in and attack the rogue AI in my opponent's deployment zone. And I'll talk more about that in the next section about the actual games themselves. Now I'll go through a battle report of each of the 3 missions during the tournament. So the first mission was Frostbyte. So here is my opponent's list. He bring Tatari Army Corps list. So I'm pretty sure he had 2 fire teams. He had a core fire team, consisting of a front Novik armor-piercing sniper rifle, 2 line Kazakhs, and a Kazakh doctor. And I'm pretty sure the lieutenant was in that group as well. And I think he did this because he talked about gaining +1 ballistic skill, which was used during great effect during the game, and that was to power his ARO piece, which was an armor-piercing sniper rifle. There was a Harris, which I think consisted of the veteran Kazakh HMG with 2 specialists in tow, which was the veteran Kazakh Forward Observer and the front Novik Engineer. And even though I've recreated this list from his actual copy that he allowed me to take a photo of, on the courtesy list, the Scout, Strelok, Beast Hunter and Spetsnaz were not on this courtesy list because they were camouflage and air deployment troopers. So they were the 4 remaining pieces of his list. So I'd written down a plan of how to accomplish this mission. I thought that writing down my plans beforehand would work, and I would refer during the game to keep me focused on the mission. I think I lost the lieutenant's role from memory, but anyway, I ended up with the first turn. If I had first turn, sorry, not yet. For my plan of first turn for Frostbyte, it was use the zeros to activate the 2 heating units by pushing forward and activating the 2 consoles, and then use them to lay down mines to slow the opponent. The Lucanod was to place crazy koalas near both of my heating units, and then to move my lieutenant if needed and place in suppressor fire. For round 2, just to kill targets of opportunity and to defend my heating units. And for round 3, to move my heavy infantry and remotes into the exclusion zone. And then, if possible, use the hazmat operator to attempt destroying my opponent's heating unit in his dead zone. And now that I think about it, I think we both forgot to nominate which trooper was the hazmat operator. So my plan went according to plan, but not quite as planned. Okay, so this was one of the tables I built for the tournament using the Stalls terrain. I'll just talk about the deployment quickly. So going from left to right, that's my Mobile Brigada missile launcher, ARO piece, the Daktari down here prone. My cruiser Borak was a reserve drop with HMG. This photo is taken a bit later, but I had a 1 camouflage token here, and there's my other 0 there. My rounder with multi-marksman rifle, Securitate with repeater, covering both my hitting units, one which is here and one behind this building, so a bit of a circle here to prevent anyone from coming down. My lieutenant, which was actually over here, the Lucanod here, my HVT just located in this corner, the Vader Engineer, the Sin Eater with Mark 12, and my Mobile Brigada hacker, which I think was actually down here. Yes, I think it was, because this is after my turn, I'm pretty sure. So that's my deployment. My opponent had his AP sniper rifle here, and I'm pretty sure there was a core here, and then he had another fire team around here with his HMG. Now these miniatures on top are actually not on top of the building, they're meant to be inside the building, just for ease of gaming purposes, you just place them there, but they were inside the building. He has his guided missile bot over there, and then camo token here, here. I think there's one more, but it's not here and I can't remember where it is. So he had his ARO piece up on top, up here, looking down here and over through here. So for my first turn, I'll move the 0 from the grey crate towards the left console. So basically around here and up here. Then the Lucanod was here originally, and so then I sort of just moved it backwards and forwards, just so I could place the 2 crazy koalas here, and one on the other side of the building here. And then I moved my lieutenant to here and go suppressor fire. I spent quite a few orders on this zero here. I think it took about 5 orders all up to try and activate this console, and failed every time. So eventually I just end up laying a mine here, and that's the prone marker. Laid a mine there just to sort of protect anyone coming from the right flank there. And then my mobile brigada with missile launcher and cruiser Borak took turns trying to kill the enemy sniper rifle. However, to no effect. And then my cruiser Borak tried to shoot and take out this remote here, and fails. Oops, sorry. And then for my opponent, a camo token moves across the midfield. I think it's this one. Moves all the way around here and into my deployment zone, and it turns out to be the Monstrucker. The cruiser Borak discovered him along the way here, and then when he went re-camo here. And then he tried to move a couple of his Ermendinos up and throw smoke. No success, but one Ermendino did come out here and ended up throwing smoke here. Sorry, wrong color. Ermendino did end up moving behind this building here and then throwing smoke around here. And so there's a bit of a shootout between the Mobile Brigada hacker and the Ermendino, and Mobile Brigada survived but received a wound and ended up taking out the Ermendino. And then with the smoke here, the Spetsnaz landed in the smoke, came in here, and then just moved. Oops, sorry, just outside, but still touching the smoke. So he's still technically classed as being inside the smoke, and he kills the Mobile Brigada hacker. And then he moves in a position down here to take out the Senator, which he does. And then I ended up countering by moving my Lucanod up here, and then heavy flame throwing his Spetsnaz, and end up killing him. Then next, the Monstrucker that was re-camouflaged ended up moving around a bit closer to take out my Mobile Brigada, and she takes a wound and goes prone, and then he re-camos, comes in through this building here, ends up here, can see through the doorway at the cruiser Borak, and the cruiser Borak shoots back and ends up killing the Monstrucker. And during this turn, or around this time, I've managed to activate 2 consoles. This other camo token went up here and activated this console. This one finally managed to activate this one, and so these 2 hitting units were activated. And I do remember trying to use my rounder to take out the sniper rifle, because he has mimetism -3 and the round has spectral visor level 1, but ended up dying, and then the Dactari ended up coming through up here and getting shot and died as well. So it was a bit of a failed plan. And then towards the end of my turn, I managed to do a coordinated order and move the Vader up here. The Mobile Brigada ended up being up here, but then she did a jump down into here and try to get the cruiser to try and move up here, and I had to do a dodge to get him to there, but he failed his dodge and ended up taking a wound and dying, or going unconscious. And then my opponent, his fire team ended up, so this fire team stayed here, but his other fire team actually moved up, activated this console, did a couple of classified objectives inside my half of the table zone, settled and activated his 2 heaters here and here, and then just bunkered down in the exclusion zone and dominated at the end of the round. So that was my first turn. Oh, sorry, my first mission, not first turn, my first mission for the tournament. And again, that was the full 3 rounds that we had. So it was quite a quick round per turn. I looked at my plan, stuck to my plan, but the first round it didn't go that way. However, the second round ended up being turn 1 and activating the 2 heating units, and round 2 and 3, sorry, round 3 was an amalgamation of my plan for 2 and 3, but unfortunately my cruiser died, making his way to the exclusion zone just because of that open area just through here, and so yeah, I was down on points and I wasn't going to win that. So that was the end of my Frostbyte game. Well, that's how my Frostbyte game went. Highly Classified is the second mission, and my opponent brought Torchlight Brigade. So just a few things to note. The Ravenite officer was a lieutenant. I didn't know that at the time. However, on his courtesy list he had Jamie Arantes as his lieutenant because the Ravenite officer has Hollow Mask, and that was revealed during the game. I've tried to, this is the best I can do to recreate his list based off the courtesy list that I kept. Obviously I didn't know how to fit the Ravenite correctly in there, but he did have the Jamie Rover FTO profile, and I'm assuming that was the Hollow Mask, and I'm not sure what other units he'd taken. I'm not sure if he took a full 300 points or not, but this is the best recreation I can of his list. Now his list was one that I was expecting to come up against. He had 2 duos. He had a duo of wreckers with heavy rocket launchers, and this was quite a heavy duo. Both tags, Silhouette 6 tags, the small tags. So being a duo, they also have, the wreckers themselves have BS attack, saving roll -1, and armor piercing in their profile. And for a weapon that has continuous damage in blast mode, using the template mode negates cover, and now does more damage at half the armor, and they have the special dice for being in a pure duo. So this was quite an annoying duo, this game, and pretty much most of the game was centered around preventing them from coming through and taking out my army. The other duo is a Hellblazer and Wave Rider, and that's also another pure duo. And there was a Harris, which consisted of 2 Kludges and a Jackboot, and the Jackboot is a wild card and can slot into the Harris. So here's the table. So I didn't really have a plan for this mission because it's hard to plan for Highly Classified because the mission objectives depend on which cards are drawn. The main objectives for this mission were Sabotage, HVT Inoculation, Predator, and HVT Kidnapping. My classified objective was Nano Espionage. This was a low scoring game. It was mostly a shooting match between my opponent's tags and me trying to keep myself alive to complete any main objectives. My opponent's HVT was located here, and my HVT was located here. So my opponent's HVT was located in a very good spot with a lot of firepower overlooking and protecting these flanks, and mine was way over here because it was so open here. You could go around, you could come around here and do whatever you wanted. So I thought if I put him as far as possible to the edge, at least he has to walk through all this fire before getting there. So I had a poor deployment plan, which was involved by not having a plan. The only plan was to place the Mobile Brigade missile launcher and Cruiser Borak ready to oppose the double tags. This table was quite open with lots of line of fire, and I ended up deploying on the west side for deployment because my opponent chose deployment. Or no, I think I chose deployment. I can't remember. Either way, I'm on this side and my opponent's on the other side. And my opponent, yes, my opponent won and he chose initiative to go first. Sorry. So continuing on, the duo tags move forward during his turn. The green one moves up here, the white one moves up here, and eventually the white one sort of moves to this corner, but most of the work is done by the green tag. And so the Mobile Brigade missile launcher ends up putting the green tag into unconscious level 1, but takes a wound herself, and I keep her prone just to keep her alive until my active turn. My opponent drops down Speedball auto repairs, and it comes down. Wait, I can't quite remember. Anyway, eventually the tags move up here somewhere. green one here, and that's where I'll put it down at unconscious level 1, sorry. And then the speedball comes down, 1 down here, and 1 combat drops, but I think ends up on the back edge here. And so then he moves his FSM Team with the Kludger Engineer. I think it's this one, comes forward, picks it up, and moves into silhouette contact with a tag. I think he does a repair for the tag. So he ended up failing the repair for the tag, but then he auto activates because of the auto repairs, because as an engineer you can do that, and then a tag regains 1 structure. And my 0 ended up just placing a mine, which revealed himself, and then he was taken out by the tag there. Then the duo Hellblazer Wave Rider, which is up here, eventually move around here. And the Sin Eater, which is located up here, has line of fire and kills the Hellblazer. Let me just clear up the board a bit. And then there's a camo token from Hidden Deployment that reveals and comes all the way around here. And I think enters silhouette contact with the Beta. And just this last part here, because obviously it's camo, and he reveals himself doing a CC attack, so the Sin Eater here ends up shooting him and killing him. I think it was a ninja or something. It had mimetism -6, and I think my Vader dies from memory. So that's my opponent's first turn. And then for my first turn, I use a Lucanod to place Crazy Koalas. I place 1 here and 1 just in this pocket here, just to help protect the HVT, because obviously the main objectives are mainly HVT focused. My camo token, which is here, end up moving into this corner here, and I use it to Trinity the Wave Rider, which is here, and it kills the Wave Rider outright, which is good, because then I have no hacking threats, and my opponent said that was his hacking threat removed, so I knew then I could sort of have a bit more freedom to push forward. And then the Securitate with the repeater, I managed to sort of push up and just sit up here and expanding the repeater network to cover out here, because he had a green tag, his green wrecker located here. Then my opponent pushed his Kludger Engineer forward into the silhouette contact and placed decharges and destroyed this piece here. So that was him completing the objective Sabotage, which is 1 main objective. And then the tags moved forwards to try and claim the green one was there, the white one came out and moved here. And I remember, I think with the Cruiser Borak, I ended up shooting the green one and putting it back into unconscious state, level 1. Sorry. And the white tag continued to move but ran out of orders. Because I had the repeater up, I could oblivion the white tag, and it ended up being just isolated, but it could still move. And then, what did I do? That's right, my Mobile Brigada hacker, which was here, ended up crawling here, jumping over and being in entering silhouette contact with a tag and causing a wound. It's quite memorable because the Mobile Brigadas have a CC of 18, and so does their Wrecker tag. And we both scored 15 the first roll. I spent another order and activated it again and caused a wound. And then, you know, we're running out of time at this point, and we knew we couldn't complete a 3rd round, so I decided to break free from the CC and move up to here and place decharges on this piece of terrain, which ended up completing Sabotage for me as my main objective. And it was pretty much the end of round 2 from there. And so Like I said, we did not have enough time for both of us to complete a third round. We may have had enough time for him to complete his third round, but I wouldn't have had an opportunity, so we just decided to call it end of game there. My opponent did manage to complete his classified objective, and that was where his Kludger was in the midfield here, another Kludger, and just do a whip check. I can't remember which one it is, but you just have to be in your opponent's half the table and do a whip check. So I did not have a plan for highly classified, and neither did my opponent. The game was more of a shooting match, with me trying to prevent the tag duo from doing a lot of damage, and I managed to hold it off. It didn't come too far in and do a lot of damage, which was, to me, a success, I guess. But I was in damage control this whole game, and this game was the first one played after lunch, and for some reason I was really mentally struggling to make good decisions. And I think because I was in that zone of decision and analysis paralysis, where I wanted to do things, but to do so I wouldn't be able to achieve them, and it was just too much to think about, so I just fell back on just defending myself from the tags and completing sabotage. Because if I wanted to complete my classified, I'd have to move my Daktari, which was here, down here, get it across through here, and somehow survive and not be shot at along the way, which was most likely not going to happen. So I guess because I knew I could not meaningfully complete any of the main objectives, and I was reacting as best I could to a double tag game, and taking small opportunities where I could, such as the 0, killing the Wave Rider, there was no way I could move the Daktari towards the opponent, but opponents protected HVT to score my classified. And so that's the end of highly classified. Last mission for the day was Mindwipe. So my opponent brought along a tag list, and the Suriat was the lieutenant, and that trooper was in a Harris fire team with 2 Vanguard. And he had 5 Datarazis in this list, and 2 of them were separated into duos, and I think 1 was just on his own. And I'm not sure if both Kyosots were in a duo or not. I'm unsure if that was another duo he had, but that's basically his list. So I did manage to win this mission. I felt guilty about it because my opponent played only 2 games previously of Infinity N4 and 1 game of Infinity N5. He said he was looking at getting into a skirmish type of game and was playtesting a few other products too. His list was not built around the tournament, just what miniatures he'd purchased. His only specialist was the Medtech Obsidian. And afterwards he told me his plan was to move everything forward and just shoot and assault me. In a way, this was an easy win for me, but I still felt guilty because he was a new player with little experience, and it felt like it was an easy win. And it was just unfortunate. Mainly I just felt guilty because he hasn't won any games so far in the tournament, and being a new player, he's probably not expected to. And obviously his list was just easily picked apart by everyone else, including me. And so I did not want to wipe out his entire army because that just seemed a bit, obnoxious. And I just took out whatever troops he presented, and I dealt with that so I could facilitate my plan and movement towards the objectives. He did not have a good grasp of the rules and how to play, and that's it's understandable being a new player. So it did feel kind of bad playing and winning against a newbie. Continuing on, my plan for the mission was to use the 0 to activate a console to locate the rogue AI, and use that same 0 to lay mines near the other console. One of my 0s was the Uber Hacker, and that was to move towards the server with a rogue AI. The Cyclone was to place repeaters in the midfield and shoot any targets in ARO. Round 2 was to create a duo with the Cruiser Borak with either the Mobile Brigada Hacker or the Engineer, and just to move towards my opponent's deployment zone. The Cyclone in the midfield to be placed in Suppressor Fire, and place the Lieutenant and Daktari and whatever troopers near my servers into Suppressor Fire just to protect them as well. And then use the 0 Uber Hacker to again move towards the Rogue AI. And then round 3, if we could, the Hellcat to enter combat jump near the Rogue AI, and the 0 Uber Hacker Cruiser Duo and Hellcat to attack the Rogue AI and any remaining servers while defending my servers. So for this, my opponent chose deployment and I kept initiative. I chose to have the first turn because I did not want the Morats to deal out any punishment. And during the game, my plan went better than expected. So these are the two consoles in the center. Use the 3 servers here, here, and here in my deployment zone. My opponent's servers are behind the buildings respectively. And for my deployment, I had the Mobile Brigada missile launcher here, 1 missile launcher here, and a Mobile Brigada hacker here, and that was my Harris. So I had 1 Mobile Brigada up high, pretty much looking all the way down here, 1 down low looking down here, and the Mobile Brigada just covering this flank here. Daktari there to cover this server. Cruiser Borak here, just looking down this way. The Cyclone placed here, the Evader placed here, prone, and the Lieutenant placed here, prone. Now this table was very open. My opponent had the good sense to pick that deployment side with lots of cover for his troopers, and all his troopers up on the roof here are not actually on the roof, they're actually in the bottom floor of the buildings. And he had another group here, and he had his Coyote, I think, or Beast Hunter here and here. So yeah, but from my perspective, it was very open, especially under here. It's all just open, just these pillars to hold it up. So I had a very open deployment zone, which was kind of scary because I knew I'd probably had a hard time defending my servers if he decided to push forward. So my 0, which was on the right here, pushed forward here and activated the console, and the Rogue server, so the server of the Rogue AI was this one here, and this 0 was the one with the Uber hacker. And so I ended up moving the 0 to here, placing a mine here, moving back along here, placing a mine here, just to protect this area a bit more. And the enemy ended up shooting the 0 through here and taking out my 0. And then I thought, well, why not? So I moved my 0 here, around here, through here. He had a failed discover from his R drone, around here and around here, within zone of control of the server. And then activated it and killed it in 1 go, or 2 goes. I think it took 2 orders. Took 1 wound off the first. Yeah, it took 2 orders. Took 1 wound off the first, or 1 structure off the first attempt, and destroyed the rest of it in the remaining attempt using the Uber hacker program. And then for my opponent, basically just moved out his Morats. He had a gun piece up here that ended up taking out, not taking out, but just causing a wound. I'm sorry, this fire team first moved out to here. The Mobile Brigada here and here took out the the team leader, which was one of his heavy shooting pieces, and broke the team and the rest of the fire team as well. And then his piece up here ended up causing a wound on my Mobile Brigada here, so this one went prone. And then my next turn, the Hellcat was supposed to land up here, but failed and ended up just landing and putting it here instead. And I just basically decided to put it there because I didn't have much in the way of protecting anything moving down through here if you wanted to, because no doubt you probably wouldn't want to come straight here. You would have thought you would have moved through here and around here and done some damage if you needed to. So it was just another gun on my right flank to protect my right server. The Cyclone ended up pushing forward up to here and just putting it in suppressor fire state. I didn't fire any pitches. I moved the Cruiser towards the Evader and created a duo, and then just had them ready, moved up here and had them ready to take on some other servers. And so since I completed my objective, which was taking out his rogue AI, I sort of focused on preventing my opponent from advancing. The Morats tried to move forward to advance, but the medtech was killed, and my opponent said there's no more specialists to try for the objective, so I decided to call end of game there. And this is another game that lasted 2 rounds. We both had to play 2 rounds each, and we had about, I think, 15 minutes left to just chill and talk. So as I said before, this was an easy win for me, and I was actually quite surprised by the luck of my dice rolls. Everything sort of went the way I wanted it to, which made me score in the first turn, which I was very surprised by. And my opponent did have some very bad dice rolls, especially with the face-to-face rolls, unfortunately, which ended up making it unfavourable for him and his saves and BS attacks. And so that is the end of the game for the tournament. Now on to the after action report. And now for the after action review. Here will be all the results for all 3 missions during the tournament. So firstly, the results of Frostbyte. For this mission, we managed to complete a full 3 rounds with 10 minutes remaining to calculate our scores. It was the only 3-round game this tournament. 2 hours of playtime is very short, but it can be done because there was a 2-hour hard 2-hour limit for each scenario. So most people end up playing 2 rounds overall, or 2.5, not the full 3. So here, as you can see, my opponent ended up dominating the exclusion zone and killing more army points of me. So he gets to score those. We both had the same active hitting units of 2 each. He scored 2 classifieds while I scored only 1. So the win went to Tatari Army Corps for 9 objective points and 136 army points, while the Nomads only had 3 objective points and 86 army points. Results for highly classified. We both scored the same main objective, and we both completed 1 main objective, and my opponent was fortunate enough to complete his classified objective, which gave him the win. And we eventually called end of game after both of our round 2 because we did not have enough time to play a full round 3. So my opponent was Torchlight Brigade. This was the double tag list, and he scored a total of 6 objective points, 217 army points remaining, whereas I had 3 objective points and 158 army points remaining. The last game, Mindwipe. So I only destroyed my opponent's server housing the rogue AI. He was unable to complete any of the objectives because he didn't have any specialists. So the game was ended after round 2, and that was at my opponent's discretion because he knew he couldn't complete the objectives. So because of the 1 server and destroying the AI, I score 3 objective points. Destroyed more servers, so that was 2 objective points. Had my own server with the rogue AI intact and all my servers intact, and I activated the console. So I ended up winning this mission with a total of 9 objective points and 218 army points, and my opponent sadly didn't score any objective points and finished up with 127 army points remaining. So a few lessons I've taken away from the tournament. First one is to have a plan. So before the tournament, I sat down and thought about how I would plan how to play each mission. Frostbyte and Mindwipe were the main ones. So I sat down and wrote a plan for going first and going second, and I found that this helped me remain focused on the game. It's quite easy to be bogged down in the gameplay in the immediate moment and get frustrated when things are not going away, but by pulling my attention away and referring to my little notebook, during the round and can help keep me focused and on track during the mission. And it also helps to speed up the game, because when you have a plan, you can sort of play to it. And if it doesn't work, well then, you can sort of reevaluate and keep going. So in Frostbyte, for example, despite turn 1 not going according to plan, turn 2 ended up becoming my round 1 plan, which was activating the heating units, and then turn 3 became my plans, a combined plan of round 2 and 3 together. And that was to move into the exclusion zone and prevent the opponent from attacking my heating units, whilst trying to kill as many of his troopers. So I did not dominate the exclusion zone and had more troopers killed, but I did defend my heating units. So the plan worked to a degree, but not completely. For Mindwipe, for example, I expected to attack the rogue AI in round 3. However, I completed this objective in round 1, so everything I planned to do was completed by round 1, leaving me with 2 rounds spare to defend my servers. But unfortunately for my opponent, he called end of game after round 2. But basically what this means is, by having a bit of a plan, you can stay focused on the mission and play according to that. For highly classified, for example, because you cannot really plan for it, because it depends on what the classified objectives are revealed. You sort of just have to play to that. So, excuse me. And this leads into my next lesson learned, which was you not always have the opportunity to play a full game. And due to the short time limit for this game of a hard 2 hours, most players throughout the tournament could only complete 2 full rounds. So knowing this, maybe when it comes to planning the mission, I should sort of plan around having 2 rounds as the norm, with the idea that the 3rd round could be a buffer for bad dice rolls or an extra opportunity to complete mission objectives. And this is just because sometimes there is no time to complete a full game, so I should factor this in when I play games in the future. I found being organised made the tournament smoother. Having only the things I need means less stuff to carry around. So normally when I play at home casually, I have a big container full of all the tokens and marker states and whatnot. But for this I purchased a Battle Kiwi wallet with a few extra layers, and I ended up taking that with me. And so what I did was for both lists, I had all the tokens needed. So one of my sheets in the battle wallet consists of nothing but marker states and deployables, and then the other 2 consisted of all the different states I'd expected to be in. So being heavy infantry dominated, I'd have all the isolated and immobilized B markers in there, all the 1 wound, 2 wound markers, what else? Just stuff like that. So instead of taking a whole container and wasting time digging around for things, everything was there, all set up. I just had to look for it within my organised battle wallet and then continue on with the game. So having only what I need makes it easier to get to the game, set up and begin. And it's the same for miniatures as well. Instead of taking a whole container of all my miniatures, I only took a container with just the miniatures I had for both lists. And it's easy to, one, it's a lot smaller, less stuff to carry, so easy to move around and transport. And 2, it's just more organised and makes things more efficient. So basically the takeaway is only bring enough for both lists and what you need for your lists. And one thing that I noticed that happened a lot was the lieutenant's role was the first step when we arrive at the table. So normally the sequence is you arrive at the table and you look at the table, you inform each other what the faction is being played, select your classified objectives, choose a list and then share the courtesy list, and then roll the lieutenant's role. But in reality, because of the short time limit, when we arrive at the game table, it's a quick hello and introduction and then roll for the lieutenant. And so that way you can decide whether you want to choose initiative or deployment, look at the table, and then we can remove around to the respective sides without having to each get to a side, go through all that, and then pack up everything and move. It was just roll. What are you picking? Deployment or initiative? Deployment, okay, you choose whatever you want. They choose a side, and we continue on from there. It was a bit more natural and it sort of flows as well. I know it's not the traditional RTS setting, but when it comes to tournaments and time limits, you sort of have to play and do things efficiently as possible. And so by conducting the lieutenant's role first and moving to the allocated sides, setting up for players is more convenient and a bit more flowing. And one thing I also noticed was that most players only use one list for the tournament. Now I understand there was only 3 missions being played, but I thought there was enough variation to warrant 2 lists. And just discussing afterwards, it seems like many players saw this tournament as a bit of a proving ground for N5 rules. Almost everyone at the event had only a couple of games previously using N5s, some did not. And so many were testing out previous lists they used during N4 to see how different the changes were. Some players were testing out the fireteam compositions and how they affected their playstyle. And if anything, it was an introduction to N5, which is good. So many rules will be learnt for next time, I'm sure. So that is the end of the battle report. Feel free to share your thoughts and observations of the tournament in the comments below. Yeah, so it was a good thing. It was a good day. Very draining mentally, especially with the 2 hours. You're just constantly in the game. Like, you know, the world could have ended and we wouldn't have known. To be honest, that's how focused I was. And it was good. First time tournament scene. Everyone's good there. It's a very casual tournament scene, so it's nice. Everyone likes to play a good game, and you know, obviously everyone wants to win, but not everyone can. But most people are just happy to play a good game, and it's not really that competitive. And again, we know not everyone knows the rules. That's why we have the rules with us, whether on the phones or printed off. And it was just a nice, relaxed game tournament all around. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, it was good, and I look forward to participating in more in the future. So with that, thank you for watching, and may you have a good day.